Hello and welcome back to AC's Make and Repair. Well, as I promised, I was going to show you some of the techniques to use this table, the drill table with. So what I'm going to do for the first tutorial, I'm going to do this in several processes by the way. I'm just going to do basic steps on this. I thought of doing a whole multitude of things at once. I thought that could be quite confusing for anybody who's just a beginner. So what I'm going to do is repetitive parallel holes. So whether the holes are equally spaced or randomly spaced, but they're parallel with an edge of a board. Okay, so we're going to get right into that now. I'm going to show you how to do repetitive parallel holes in accordance to the edge of a board. Okay, so here I have a board and I've marked some lines along the edge. And I want to drill some holes 20 millimeters apart, 10 millimeters in from the edge of the board all the way along. Now these are equally spaced holes. So I've gone through and marked them. I used a pair of dividers to mark out those holes. It was quite easy. I just stood it up like that and I basically just walked the dividers along like this. And that gave me exactly 20 millimeters apart. And that was for repetitive drilling. You can mark it out by hand with the ruler if you wanted. That's the way I did it. Okay. In some cases I didn't put big marks on the board. I just put little tiny pinprick marks that I could scribe across that will be easily sanded out. So, in order to get that 10 millimeters from the edge of the board, I'm using a brad point bit here. So brad point's really good in the sense that the point of the drill bit, I'll draw it on here for you. So a brad point drill bit's really good in the sense that the point of the drill bit is pointy compared to a normal twist drill, which just has a point like this. So it's a lot easier to line up this sharp point with our parallel mark on the edge of our board here. So I'll go ahead and show you how to do that now, and we'll get on with it. Okay, so the beauty with this, just a simple pivoting fence like this, is you can just quickly go like this. Now I know some of the sliding fences that go back that are square to the table can be quite easily and quick, but for a home hobbyist that doesn't want to spend time setting up a square fence, this is quite quick and quite easy, and you can do it one-handed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that drill bit down. I'll just make sure my hands are on the road. Bring that brad point down to my mark, and there's my mark right there that my point's going on. And now I'll zoom right in just to see if I can get it right in for you. So there we have it, the brad point, the pointy part of the drill bit. I'll just turn that around because it's just swiveled back, is lining up with my mark just there. So once I've got it lined up with my mark this way, not so much my mark that way, I can put it anywhere on the board. There it is, it's lined up with that little bit of a mark there. Once I've got that, I'll go over to the other end of my fence over here and I'll clamp it. Once I've clamped it, I can now come back to my drill over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the first hole. And once I've drilled the first hole in exactly the right spot, so I'm going to bring it down and I'm going to line up that spot really carefully, which I have there. I'm going to start my drill and I'm going to drill that hole to the depth I want it. Let's say I want it that deep. Okay? It's in the right spot. Then I'm going to take a pencil and line up on this bit of masking tape. Now masking tape's good because you know what? You make a mistake, you can throw it out. So I've lined that up right there on the edge of my line, corresponding to that mark. That's quite simple now. I don't have to worry about this way, in and out now anymore. All I have to do is line up these other marks. That's all I have to do. So I can pretty well simply go through once my depth gauge is set, and I just line up my mark like that. And I can drill as many holes as I want that far from the fence. And they all end up in a row, dead parallel with the edge of my board. So that is very basic. As you can see, that's very, very basic. All those holes lined up perfectly, and it worked very, very quickly. Now let's say I want to do a second row, and I want to make my second row, instead of being 10 millimeters in from the fence, I want to make it 20 millimeters in from the fence. Just say there, so that's 20 millimeters. Let's say that's 20 millimeters. And then, instead of making them 20 millimeters from the end, I want to stagger these holes. So I want to make them like this. So I go 10 millimeters, 20 millimeters. And once I've done that, I square those marks across like this. There's my two new marks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill this first hole. Once I've drilled that first hole, I'm going to actually line up this mark here on the back again. So what I do is the same technique. I bring it down. I am doing my clamp first, of course. Bring it down. So I'm parallel with the fence first. That's the first stage to any of it. Parallel it with the fence first. So there we are. I think I'm parallel there. That's right, I'm parallel there. I go over and I clamp the end of my fence so it doesn't move. I'll just double check, make sure I haven't moved. Beautiful. Let me explain something. As soon as you move that fence again, that mark is made irrelevant. So we'll just have a look at that now. What I'll do now is I'll line that up with my first mark, which is right there. See how it's not lining up with that mark if you look carefully? It's not lining up with that mark if you look carefully. It's a little bit out. So I disregard that mark, totally disregard it. But to save me doing marks all the way along for my new lot, I'm going to use a 20mm spacing still. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill this hole. And I drill it to the depth I want, blow it clean, then go back to my original marks. And I mark it. I scribble out this one so I don't get confused. If it's too confusing for you, get rid of that line altogether. Then I bring my next line up to it, like this, because they're 20mm apart still. And I go bang, got that line. Then I move it along to this mark. And I go, that's it there again. Then I go up to this mark, and that's it there again. And it's a simple process for staggered drilling. So there you have it. I was using the initial marks to index these marks here, these holes here I should say. Now if I wanted to do a second row of like a grid pattern without staggering them, I still have to adjust that mark. It might only be a fraction out. So if I wanted to do out to here somewhere, and I moved it over, I'll just show you now. I moved it over to my fence, just there. And my hand's on the road. I would have to move my mark for that row there to there. So if I'm going to go another row there, I'd move it to there and then use the same starting marks again and go again. And it works quite fine. But all you have to do is make sure you move that mark. If the masking tape gets too cluttered with marks, take it off and change the masking tape. If you're doing 5 of these boards the same and you're doing 10 rows on each board, take them, do the first row on each board, then do the second row on each board, third row on each board, and that way you can save a lot of time. So that's just basic parallel uh, lines, parallel holes using this fence. It's quite good for that if you've got repetitive drilling to do. Now I will show you some drill bits that you can use for this even. So you can use a Forstner bit with this fence. According to the stock that you use, you can use it for. This is only temporary for what I need to show you. So you could use a Forstner bit. You can use a spade bit. Obviously, you wouldn't use this size spade bit on a small bit of stock like this. This is only a demonstration board, by the way. But you can use a spade bit and lower your drill table, so you can use a spade bit and drill multiple holes if you wanted to. You can use a normal drill bit too on this fence as well. The only difference is you'll find it hard lining up the point compared to with a brad point, but a normal drill point you can line up. And once you've got your first couple of holes drilled, it's all straight sailing from there, really. So don't just think you have to use a brad point. You can use, like I said, the Forstner bit, the spade bit, a normal drill bit, but with this to drill parallel lines to the fence. So thanks for joining us on this video to show you some basic parallel drilling techniques with the simple table that we made. We made this table in the last video that I showed you. If you haven't seen that video, go back and have a look at it. It's a simple table to make. It's a good beginner's project, easy to make. All right, catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.